Hey everybody, Mike here. I hope you guys are staying safe out there during this difficult time. I wanted to take a moment to discuss the potential future of Ratchet and Clank, as this has been the biggest gap between games. With the PS5 on the horizon, it would make sense for Insomniac to continue the franchise for the next console generation. While I think the latest game on the PS4 was great, with its overall gameplay and gorgeous designs to both characters and environments, I still had a few issues with it. With that said, I would like to take the time to discuss 5 things that I would like to see in a future Ratchet and Clank game. Number 5. Multiple save files. I really wish I didn't need to bring this up, but what made Insomniac suddenly think that having more than one save file was obsolete? When this started with All for One, it wasn't that big of a deal since levels could be easily replayed, but why did the same rule apply for the following games? I get that Full Frontal Assault is really short, and Into the Nexus has challenge mode, but why are we limited to one save file in the reboot? This isn't that much of an issue for me, but what if you have siblings or friends who always visit? Why should you have to share the same game file? I once saw a thread on Reddit about this that started when someone accidentally overwrote their save file in the 2006 reboot while trying to access challenge mode. That's gotta hurt. Bottom line, let us save our games to the console, please. Number 4. Greater enemy variety. The enemies have always been awesome in Ratchet and Clank, but I've noticed that the diversity has been pretty lacking, which makes it feel less organic. In Tools of Destruction, there were multiple enemy factions and a large number of creatures to fight, but in later games like A Crack in Time, you mostly fight Nefarious' robots and Agorians, while occasionally finding an enemy exclusive to a particular planet. Into the Nexus had a similar problem since almost every encounter was with thugs, nethers, and bosses that are pretty much just reskins of each other. I can understand that if the enemies are working for the antagonist that they would appear regularly, but having them show up so many times makes fighting them predictable. While they aren't bad on their own, and they can sometimes prove to be a challenge in large numbers, it would still be nice to see something new. I would even be in favor of having a visual encyclopedia like in Going Commando. It's unnecessary, but it's really fun to get a small amount of backstory for the enemies and creatures. Number 3. A deeper storyline. I always say how much I love TJ Fixman's writing in the Future Saga. I will admit that I found his stories have been significantly weaker nowadays. Now, that's not to say that they've all been bad, I just think that after his amazing writing in the 3 games in the Future Saga, that his later projects have been lacking. I adored the story arcs and the amazing character development, so I really hope that he can deliver and create another epic story that enthralls the audience. The Future series made you love the characters, and I was so emotionally invested, and I felt satisfied and a little empty inside when it was all over. You know, the sort of empty that makes you feel like, wow, I just let go of something incredible and I really want to return to it. Imagine my disappointment when it was followed up with really childish writing and rushed story arcs. Into the Nexus could have been so much better if we had more time to explore the backstory and develop a relationship with the characters, rather than just leaving it out in the open with actual journal entries that blatantly tell us information. I think Into the Nexus has good elements, but it doesn't always deliver on expectations. The writing in both the movie and the reboot were actually pretty good, and I do appreciate the lessons that they try to convey, but I noticed that the game does a much better job of telling the story than the movie did by adding important plot information. And yeah, I'm still a bit upset about what they did with Drek by making his motives completely pathetic. While the plot is a bit by the numbers, I still enjoyed it for its humor, dialogue, and for the times when it could get emotional. I don't think it's entirely in Fixman's control, because I know that writers don't always have creative freedom on the project, but I would still hope to see something happen that's a bit more interesting. Number 2. New planets. Now, a lot of people would say that's kind of silly, because there are always new planets in the game. Okay, I'm not sure what other people think about this, but I feel that the designs of the planets are getting a bit too recycled. I mentioned in a top 10 games list that I was underwhelmed by the planets in Into the Nexus because they all felt similar to what we've already seen, but with none of the same charm. I adore the creativity with the different biomes and technology we see, and I love how each planet in the series would feel completely different. You could go from a giant skyscraping city to a rocky desert to a deadly swamp filled with ravenous creatures. Maybe we could even explore a different galaxy. It always felt like a fresh new start whenever we went somewhere new, like Ratchet's discoveries could become our own, and I really admired it when it was done well. The first time we got to go to the Polaris Galaxy, it felt like a fresh new experience, and we were all excited for what the PS3 was capable of at the time. I also noticed that the levels in later games felt less open and more direct, and I wasn't sure why I felt that way, but after I saw the Gaming Brit show's video about why Ratchet and Clank 3 was disappointing, I agreed with a lot of his statements. In early games, you mostly had the option of which objective you wanted to accomplish first, rather than a linear string of different gameplay modes. Take Novalis, for example. When you first arrive, you could either travel down the main path through the battleground to rescue the mayor, turn right and go through the waterworks to meet the plumber, or turn around and explore the cave system. It's completely optional, but it really adds to the depth of the level. Unfortunately, we don't really see that in Up Your Arsenal, and are just given a linear set of missions most of the time. The way that the first two games offered that kind of freedom really went a long way. It's fine to have your lava planet, snow planet, swamp planet, whatever, but it should have some cool, unique element to make it memorable. Also, it would be great to see the Insomniac Museum again. By that, I don't mean the boring, silent Insomniac storage unit. I mean, for God's sake, rather than showing us a cool set of cut content and behind-the-scenes stuff, all we had in the reboot was a bunch of character models and old commercials. If they wanted to do that, then why didn't they go all the way with it? Some of the old ads for the PlayStation 2 games were really funny, but we don't get any of that here. I complain because when they tried so hard to cater to longtime fans, they really didn't do that much of it. And number 1, a fresh new arsenal. Don't get me wrong, I love the classic weapons like the Groovatron and Mr. Zircon, so I want to make it very clear that I do not have a problem with them. I'm just saying that I would really hope for a new set of weapons in a future installment, since the PS4 reboot only introduced 2 to the series. One of them, the Pixelizer, is pretty unique, so I would be fine if that one made a return. The rest were the same guns that have appeared in the PS3 installments. I can see why that was done since it was a reboot, and it did cater a lot to fans, but I do hope that Insomniac puts in some additional creative effort. Maybe even open another fan competition like what they did in A Crack in Time with the Spiral of Death. Of course, it's cool when some of them return, but I know that Insomniac can create some really impressive weapons. I mean, it's practically one of the things that they're known for. They've made awesome weapons for Resistance and Sunset Overdrive that fit the themes pretty well, and even the gadgets in Spider-Man were pretty useful and fit the style of gameplay perfectly. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the weapons we have, but I would still like to see something new. And those are the top 5 changes I would like to see in a new Ratchet and Clank. Are there any specific things that you would like to see? Please let me know. I would love to open this up for a discussion. Thank you for watching. Be sure to comment and subscribe if you want to see more. Take care, and stay safe out there.